Michigan is expected to be without its top running back in the game, and that only strengthens an Ohio State defense that already matches up well against the Wolverines.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Hump Day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. During today's show, we will discuss if Patricia is ready for the game against Michigan, as well as if Ryan Day should tap into some load management skills and tactics against Rutgers this weekend. But before we get to any of that, it is time to bring another one of my guys in for today's show. This is a Wednesday show. Normally, sometimes there's a guest on Wednesday, sometimes there is not. Today we have one, and it's not Michigan week yet. We're ramping up and leaning into the Michigan-Ohio State conversation until the game is played. And my guy Jeff Hunt is here. Jeff Hunt, the Japanese sports guy. He needs all the sports, needs all the Buckeye football he can get. And if you guys can tell by my voice is not the strongest today. So we're going to try to power on our way on through this show together. And Jeff, there's some news that came out earlier this week. This is not being recorded as breaking news, but Justice Haynes, Michigan's top running back, is expected to miss the game. He's missed a few weeks already, and now with the news that he may be out for the year, it's expected he's out for the game, the rivalry game against Michigan. Ohio State's defense is already strong and matches up well against Michigan, so I'm not really worried about how they match up in that game. But when you lose a guy who is their best offensive weapon, that plays into how well Ohio State's defense should play that day.
Oh yeah, especially I mean the kid especially started the year carrying the team. Let's be honest with it. I mean, trying to bring along a true freshman quarterback and everything. I mean, it would be silly to sit here and say it's not an advantage. I mean, I don't want the guy to be out. I never ever wish for injuries or am glad, but you do have to talk about it. It is a reality, and you have to address that. Like they're down. I don't know, probably the most important player on their offense. If that happens now. Anybody that's been a Buckeye fan for a long time knows that these situations are often where we birth a new Michigan superstar that we don't even know is going to happen. We saw it happen a couple years ago in the shoe. I saw it happen back in the day with, dare I say, Tim Biakabatuka. So I am not going to act like Michigan doesn't have depth at running back. I'm not going to pretend I know, who might fill that void or, if the other guy can, to take the whole load or whatever. But yes, it's definitely not something that Michigan wants to happen. But I will say, if they know now already, it doesn't happen, in game. A couple years ago, I mean, Blake Corum, got out a week before the game. At that point, one of the best running backs in America. That didn't change anything. I mean, they had huge rushing yards. So it's something to deal with because you don't want to lose a talented player, but also you have 2 weeks to do it. You have depth, just like Ohio State. Like we wouldn't want to lose any running back, but we're not going to act like we only have one. So it's not a non-story, but it's also, I don't think if you're going to tell me, if I go through my mind the path of Michigan to win the game, I don't think not having, him it ruins everything. I think they still have a plan. They've had it for years now. They know what they're going to do. They know what they're going to try to do, and they're going to see if it's going to work. Whoever's behind center is, and behind the quarterback is not going to change what they do. But yes, it may make it less effective. It'd be silly to say that losing a really good player isn't bad. That'd be silly.
Dude, earlier in the year, I think you mentioned that earlier. I like watching certain guys run the ball. And I liked him running the ball last year. I believe he was at Alabama. I got annoyed with how well he ran the ball earlier in the year because you can't run the ball that well and wear those colors. That's against the law. But that's what he did. Like he's a strong running back, and I'm not going to try to use my Ohio State colors and use the glasses. No, he's a good player. I'm not going to shy away from acknowledging how good of a player he is. But even if he was there, let's just say he was there, Jeff, Ohio State's defense already has answers for him. Their rush defense is really good. Now, there are some times if you get outside and try to run outside around the edge, you might be able to get around there, depending on if the defensive ends and linebackers set the edge properly. But this defense is so fluid. They are so athletic. I was blown away in the UCLA game about their sideline-to-sideline speed of Styles and Reese. That stuff that they are doing right now at an elite level is going to show up big in that game because their best back's not going to be there. And that really drastically changes how productive Bryce Underwood can be.
Yeah, no, I like you brought it up when you brought up this subject a couple of days ago. All I could think about is the difference in this particular team, and we'll say everybody's going to talk about the last four. There's no reason to ignore the elephant in the room is sideline to sideline. It's Arvell Reese mainly. I mean, that's a giant difference between, when a guy can, when he can attack you at the line of scrimmage and also chase you down. It's no secret that that's the most important thing in this game. And I think also what Ohio State's done to develop, I think Matthews has really come along as physical, player. He feels like a guy that might be a safety at the next level. I think there's potential for that. And I mean that as a compliment that, he can do a lot of things. So, we would assume Michigan's going to run a lot of run heavy sets. Some defensive back is basically going to become a linebacker. Now we know we got Downs out there and all the stuff that he can do. I think we all know that's an advantage because what I like about Downs is chasing the play. That's a secret sauce there. Like everybody saw him playing in the A gap the other night, giving everybody something, just more to think about. But if the guy does get behind the line of scrimmage, he recognizes and reacts to the play and can chase down the play. We've seen him do it time and time. I mean, we got a national championship because of it. I'm being honest, especially like the way he can chase down a play after he commits, he doesn't have to play back, so we don't have to necessarily play safe and worry about speed like we probably did, a few years ago. Last year's team was pretty good, but so that's what I like the most. I think these defensive backs are more physical, can tackle. I would think there wouldn't be as many broken tackles, which has cost us. It dearly cost us. I believe it was 2 years ago against CJ Stroud and the gang when, it was 3 or 4 giant plays that we just couldn't, they got through the line of scrimmage. It cost us a chance at a national championship. This team doesn't feel like they're going to do that. I'm going to give them that respect. I mean, I do agree with a lot of people. The level of talent that they've played in their run recently but that there's nothing they can do about that.
Right.
What they've done with it is what I really noticed is the teams, they almost look resigned to it. Like they don't even really test it. They just kind of mark it off of like the stuff that you're saying that they do, they defend well against teams that just stop running it. Like UCLA had I know that new quarterback and all that, they didn't have a chance anyway, but they were just like, there's no reason to go out here and beat our head against the wall. Let's try something else. So, but I think definitely the most important thing as far as neutralizing or slowing down Michigan's running game or, matching it up is definitely going to be the attacking physical nature that this defense has definitely excelled at over even last year's national championship team.
Jeff, there's one thing you just said about the UCLA game we're going to hit after the break because it's something Ohio State's defense responded to very well in the moment. We'll hit that after the break. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Once again, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank y'all for tapping and Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Now the number one sports podcast network that is a Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jeff, there's something you said earlier about Ohio State's defense and how they have kind of adjusted a little bit. And it made me think about how UCLA, they started to try to run with different guys and different looks to try to get a little creative to try to trip up a defense that is very hard to trip up. UCLA's attempt was great. It's a great idea. It just didn't work to the way that they thought it was going to work because of Ohio State's defense. You can look at Reese and Styles and Downs and Matthews, and all those guys are great players. The guys up front are playing out of their minds. And we marveled, and maybe sometimes people drooled over how last year's D-line played. I think as a collective unit, this unit might be more athletic. I'm not going to say that they're stronger, but they might be a tad bit more athletic, and they read and react a whole lot better. Man, the quickness of the four guys up front makes running against this unit very, very hard.
I will say that the difference between the 2 years, and I'm glad you brought this up again, also in my notes, the most important thing about, the game that we're really talking about is these dudes up front and how they get better every game. And, guys like Jackson, McDonald, like what I think is slightly different about this defense. And I think as a whole, this defense, I don't think it's necessarily the overall talent level. Like if you're playing NCAA, 25, and you look at the talent level of last year's team and this year's team, you're like, oh, they're both, really, really good. I think the difference is that it seems like in almost every position on defense, and I only say almost because I have to really think it through, but basically every position on defense, the player that's in that position seems right for that position and seems to know how to play that particular. We do not, like we said for 3 years, Jay, that Jack Sawyer was out of position. Now, most of that was because of the Knowles defense and everything, and kind of put him in out of position. But like this year doesn't feel that way. It feels like every guy on the defensive line, like, and the combinations. And I think that's what, something that, I discovered. And as I keep watching is that, and we talk about what Patricia does really well, his combination of players on the defensive line seems to be working perfect. And that's definitely from NFL experience, because in the NFL, you hire and draft guys that do certain things, and then you put those certain things to work. And the Patriots did it as well as anybody on the defensive line for forever. And I know Patricia wasn't there for the whole run, but everybody knows what I'm saying. And when I see these combinations, especially like even Will Smith Jr. the other night, got into the fight, put him in, usually size and speed and strength and everything. And I know it's easy for me to say, like, we're taking super talented guys and making them good, but it's really this combination. And then if and when you've got when you've got this guy in the A gap, you can do this with Reese. And when you've got this guy in the A gap, you can do this with Reese. And then sometimes we'll do some, fast stuff. We had Caleb Downs in the A gap, which means you can do different stuff with McDonald and Curry. And I don't think, like, for instance, Curry, I think he's really good, but I don't think he would be really good everywhere. I don't necessarily know that he is the talent, but this is where I'm going to give Patricia credit, whoever, coaching staff credit. They're like, man, this guy's got a set of skills. If we put him in the right situation and in the right position, he's going to flirt. And boy, has he taken off, and I don't think that and he's done that with everybody. And it's crazy because if you really look at the stats, they don't jump out as like all the sacks and all, but what it is what you said. It's, first of all, a team, I mean, honestly, it seems like they're always going 3 and out. So there's just not a lot of plays.
No.
But they're just not getting any momentum. Like there's so many, like, I wish we had a stat, and I'm sure that it is out there. If any football junkies out there have this, I know you got tackle for loss. I need tackle for like less than, we'll say, 2 yards, because that's what they do great. They catch a guy when he hits the line, they grab him, the guy falls for a couple yards, and they wind up in 2nd and 8 and 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 7 all the time. And that stat really doesn't show up for the defensive line. I guess you could look at yards per carry and all that. That is showing up. But if you really watch, like, yeah, they may not always be getting in behind the line of scrimmage, but boy, when you get to the line of scrimmage, there's not a lot there. And then when you have the guys that we have that can clean it up, like, it's just a great synergy and combination of everything. And they really make it work. I mean, it is no secret. This defensive line makes this defense work. I mean, and that goes across the board. That's NFL, college. I mean, but you have to have it. And again, I just think the rotations and the combinations, and they always seem fresh, and they come in, it's really NFL style defensive line work is what we're seeing. And it's great. And what I like this year is, like, we've been pretty good against the passing quarterbacks for several years, and gave up some running yards and some explosion. Yeah. But what was the idea? What we would do, we'll get up 21, and that negated the run. Honestly, right. Our offense was the biggest run stopper for a few years. And then now it's like, the other team looks defeated, before they even start to try to run the ball. Michigan's not going to give up on that. Michigan's going to be better at running the ball. It's going to happen. We're not going to – we did stop it last year. Like, people forget about that. We lost the game last year, but we didn't get whooped. Like, we didn't get ran over again. It was a different story. So we did kind of figure out how to play against that offense a little bit more. And then with this skill set and this defensive line that you're talking about, like, I would expect that it should be more of the same.
Jeff, you mentioned Will Smith Jr., and immediately in my head, I remember the play was a read option. And I thought he was Cade McDonald. He moved so fast. He got in the backfield very quickly.
Yes.
And basically swallowed the running back. And I thought he had a 4-yard loss. No, it was a great decision by the quarterback to pull the ball, go around. He didn't get many positive yards, but Will Smith Jr. is one of those backups that in the game against Michigan, you're going to need about 5 to 10 plays that are at a top level. I'm not talking about just good level or an above average. I mean, you need a top level set of plays from him for 5 to 10 plays. He may only get 2 plays on a drive. He may only get 3 plays on the next. He may only go in for 1 play. The next thing you know, Patricia's like, nah, we're going to change things up. You come off the field. Whatever the case may be, you're going to need backups like him. Lorenzo Styles, who was not a backup, but he's not a star on the defense. You're going to need some big plays from him.
Yep.
You're going to need these guys that aren't the stars of the defense or maybe even some key backups. They are guys that you need to have top plays from, because if you think about it, last year, I forget who the running back was, but he went around the right side and kind of sealed the game for Michigan, sealed the win. That right there, if you get one of those guys that's not a star but could go out and make a big tackle on 4th down where it's 4th and 3 and they're trying to go for it, all of a sudden you get no yards because you're right there, Johnny, on the spot. That's what you need in this game. Jeff, there was a guy on the YouTube comment section that wanted some more intense conversations about Michigan, and I feel it right now. My voice is getting cranky for it. I can't stand that school, man. I can't stand them. And I'm not a coach, but I can't wait to see these guys tear them up in a couple weeks.
Well, especially the bitterness right now, because I do not care what Michigan fans think about this. We've had the better team probably 3 out of the 4 years. Last year was clearly better. They would admit that. The first year was Stroud. His first year starting in the snow up there. Nope, that was Michigan. Kicked their butt. No excuses about it. The next year definitely should have won. We're not sure what happened that year. Everybody knows their theories or whatever. And then the next year, the difference was really Kyle McCord and an overthrown ball and some mistakes. But I don't think – well, I'll say those at best, those were even. I know we're talking about the national championship Michigan team. But I'm saying, like, I think if you're Patricia, especially if you're Ryan Day, you got to be like, I am not going to bring another team in here that's clearly better. And that doesn't mean Michigan's bad. I want to be clear. I am not an Ohio State guy that, like you said, I don't have, scholar, covered glasses on all the time and say that Michigan stinks this year, because people look up and see that they had a tough game against Northwestern or see that, the stats aren't great. I know what I see. Michigan is a good team, and Michigan has something to play for. If Michigan wins out, Michigan's probably going to the college football playoff. So let's not act like this is, David versus Goliath here. But Ohio State is better. That's the bottom line. How much better, we're going to find out. But I would think that it's the bitterness and the bite and the anger that this team ought to have built up. The closer I get, Jay, all season I've been like, I just need to get back to the playoffs. I want another chance. I was wrong. This has to be done. Like, they have to put this to bed with this particular team and a defense that is, we just talked about for 15 minutes, is built to stop everything that Michigan does well. And that you can't come out of this one. And I know it's already looking like one of those 40-degree days in Ann Arbor next week. And these kids are going to have to show up and they're going to have to be tough. And Julian Sain is going to have the hardest game, I will say, of his life. I truly believe that. I don't care what he did in high school. It's not going to be what he's going to face, in Ann Arbor with what we presume. I'm guessing both teams, I'm definitely not really worried about Ohio State as much because they don't have a loss, but I think Michigan's going to get through Maryland and they're going to have a chance for everything in this game. So they're going to get, the full force. But I think that's good. And I think Day has to smack it down like Urban did, like Tressel did, like all these guys did, and let his player, he's got to, the biggest, I know we're going to talk about it more in 2 weeks. The biggest, just my overall thought is I told my wife tonight, the number one thing Ryan Day has to do is has to have this team ready to play that morning. We cannot have a game to where they come out and we're like last year or a few years ago, not ready to play. What happens after that on the field is different, but they have to come out ready to play. Or honestly, I'll just tell you straight up, the questions are going to start. He better be ready to win another national championship if he loses to Michigan this year. I'll just say that straight up.
Jeff, this conversation isn't done. Unfortunately, the show's wrapping up here soon because we definitely could go an hour talking about that team up in Ann Arbor. But Jeff, Ryan Day's used some very interesting tactics with some of his stars, and I wonder if he should use some of those with some defensive players this weekend against Rutgers. We'll discuss that after the break. This episode is also brought to you by GameTime. Guys, we're nearing the end of another exciting college football season, and I've loved every second of it. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use GameTime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up GameTime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. Honestly, GameTime is faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, and download GameTime today. I'm going to make a quick comment here, Jeff, before we go to the next topic. I hope you guys pray for our wives over the next week and a half, because I know Jeff and I are going to be blowing their ears up with all the thoughts and schematics and X's and O's and how much we can't stand that team. So yeah, I hope, Jeff, somebody out there is thinking about our wives over the next weeks, man, because they're going to need all the help they can get.
Yeah, I got to tell you, real quick story. We were in Nashville. We were out on the dance floor. Now, keep in mind, we had the band play Hang on Sloopy, the whole 9 yards on college football Saturday. And some young lady thought it was going to be funny, because, the Buckeye fans in there, and they thought it was going to be funny to, take a little video of my wife and give them whatever Michigan does as far as being disrespectful. And all I'll say is they learned a lesson. They learned the lesson about decor, during this. So my wife is absolutely ready. She is ready for the game, and she is ready to start cashing checks. So nothing to worry about there.
Mine is too. She's a little annoyed with. She gets more annoyed, more vocal than I do at times.
Yeah.
I'm the podcast guy. I talk about it on the show. I don't normally go out in public and bash Michigan, but
Never.
I think it was this past week, and we were out somewhere, and it just hit me, bro. It's 4 years of this nonsense, and it just started to build up in me in public. I'm like, oh no, I'm about to get real petty. But Ryan has been a coach. I got to transition here quickly because we're almost about out of time. Yep. Ryan has been a coach that hasn't been petty. He's been specific, and he's very calculated in some decisions that he has made. Ryan Day, I believe they put Jeremiah Smith on a pitch count. He had some lower body and ankle injury. He still made some miraculous catches. He still did normal Jeremiah Smith things, but you could tell he wasn't 100%. Caleb Downs, Cade McDonald, Keanu Jackson Jr. There are a lot of guys on Ohio State's defense. They got to be banged up. They have a ding here, a nick there. Do you think Ryan Day should put certain guys on pitch counts or snap counts restrictions this weekend against Rutgers?
Yeah, definitely. I think the most important thing you got to do, it's the final home game. It's quote unquote senior day.
Yeah.
None of us think Downs is going to be back next year. We know that Reese, Styles, all these guys are going to be gone. So he's got to be conscious of that. Plus he's got to trust that, hey, this could have been a chance that we needed to win this game. So I've always said, I know it's one of those things that if you're wrong, but I think you got to let them play a little. I think there is a way to let them play their game and as safely as possible. Don't overthink it. Like you said, don't put in a bunch of crazy stuff. Let them play forward, but also, yes, either rotate them through the game as far as your snap count, or just get them out of the game after everybody's, got to watch them a little bit. It is tough. He's in a tough position because as much as I want him to, he can't just pull all the starters off the field. You got 105,000 fans there that fund your program. He's got to think about that. And also, I guess the argument would be if I'm Caleb Downs is like, dude, I'm going to play 17 games next year. Like, I think I can handle Rutgers. And that I'm saying that would be the argument as a player. But yeah, I think he definitely has to watch what he does, especially like you said, defensive linemen, keep them fresh, keep them rotated. Don't overuse anybody, assuming we don't have to. You never know. Right. Just saying, you never know. But yeah, I definitely think you have to be aware, especially we're hoping it gets to the second half. We're hoping you're going to be in control, and you're hoping you can start focusing towards next week and the fans will start chanting. If you haven't been to Ohio Stadium on a senior day, the week before the Michigan game, and when it gets towards the end and the game's wrapped up and we all start singing that we don't give a darn about the whole state of Michigan thing, you really haven't quite a grasp of the energy for the 6 days leading up to the game. So yeah, he's definitely got to be aware of it and not get cute, not try to win the awards Saturday.
I don't think Ryan Day is a coach this year that cares about individual awards.
Doesn't feel like
it. He does, because he wants guys like Sand and Smith to get the national recognition that they deserve. He cares more about the long game, man. He's trying to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten title, and win the national championship. And I think with that mindset, he might sit guys. He might put guys and say, look, if we score in the first 4 possessions and we hold them to 3 points or less, you're getting pulled.
Yeah.
And it's not a smack and say, oh, you can't handle it. It is, we need to save your body for the next game. Because the next game is the first big game of the year. Like, Texas was a season opener. That was a big game. Nothing this season is any bigger than what's going to happen Thanksgiving weekend on that Saturday in Ann Arbor. Ryan Day knows that. He's played the long game all season. While it has been a little frustrating at times to watch an offense that moves slower than a lot of NFL offenses, one thing you know is nobody can really stop them. They're not even hitting the gas yet. The running game is getting better. They're very efficient running the ball. Their defense is still just as strong as it's been all season long. While they're still being very vanilla at times, nobody has an answer. I would not be mad if Ryan Day decided to use a pitch count. Now, Jeff, this is me saying this, that I don't like load management. I'm not saying to sit guys just to sit them. I don't like that. But if you want to put a guy out there and say, look, we are way better than Rutgers. There is absolutely no reason why this game should be 17-14 at halftime. If we're up 21, 24-0 at the half, maybe 24-3, we're pulling you. Now, it's a little bit early for Ryan Day to pull certain guys because Ryan Day normally doesn't pull them with that type of lead, not this season. But he knows what's coming. He knows if he can save just that one play, a play where somebody might go low on a tackle and that guy could be out for the very next week, he's going to do it. Let him play. I'm not saying sit him the entire game. Let him play. Let him get their feet wet. Treat it like a preseason game, because if you do that, Jeff, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you say, and also like, hey, it is senior day. There's a lot of kids who don't get a lot of playing time. These are great moments in front of their family and friends and the world and Buckeye Nation. Like, there's so many of these guys that we're so thankful for that have been there all year, that are backups, but we know what they're doing in practice. We know what they do as far as relationships. I don't know if anybody, has read the story about number 23. Go check that out. One of the great stories in football this year. But you know what I mean? So that can also be a great, as someone has known kids that went to Ohio State and that was their only game time of the year, that's awesome too. So you can do both and it's going to be fine. I really think he's got a handle. On this week. I think him and Patricia, I feel like, have a handle on the next, 13 days of Ohio State football.
Jeff, I want to say that Patricia comment for next week. Hopefully we could find time to get you back on the show to kind of get
Hope so.
Our final show before the game against Michigan, because one, I hope my voice is back to being 100%, but two, I can't stand them. I can't stand
them. I love it.
I can't. I tell you, man, I try my best to stay calm and not go all out. The guys that locked on, they know when it's this time, it's hate week, and it's like hate week starting a few days early. I don't care. They have beat Ohio State.
It was hate season
while cheating. I'm not going to deny it. While cheating, they have beat Ohio State a little bit of time. This needs to stop. And I feel like this year, Ryan Day might just beat the brakes off of him. I just got a good feeling about this game, man.
What finally put me over the top was last night. I'm watching a couple nights ago, I'm watching the Detroit Lions game, and Hutchinson introduced himself as being from the University of Michigan. I'm like, that's it. It's on. It's on site. Like it's over. Now you're being petty. We live in their minds. We need to take advantage of that. They cannot get the taste out of their mouth that we don't care about last year, and it bothers them. So we need to finish it this year. Be done with this mess.
I'm with you, bro. That's my guy, Jeff Hunt. Follow him on X at jhunt006. You can follow me on that platform as well at jsteven07. Remember to go follow us on Facebook as well. I don't pump that up enough, but Locked on Buckeyes is now on Facebook, and there will be some conversations that you can only find on that platform. You can follow the show at Locked on Buckeyes or on any podcast or social media platform there is. We're up out of here, y'all. You can tell my voice is about to give away. But we're going to finish the week strong, heading into Rutgers, while still thinking about the Wolverines.